All right, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you back to hour number 2 of the Steve Malzberg Show. And we kick it off with a very special guest who is here. And he's a former deputy director of the CIA, former acting director of the CIA, author of a great new book, The Great War of Our Time. There it is on your TV screen. And, of course, he was a top CIA analyst during 9/11 and delivered daily briefings to President George W. Bush, and also assisted with the planning of the raid that killed Osama bin Laden. So he's been through it all, and we welcome in Michael Morell.
It's great to be with you, Steve.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic
to
be
my cold
here.
hands. It's cold in here. Like that's how I like it. All right. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you so much.
And you're making news every day with all the interviews you do. Let me have you react, if you will, to the release of these Osama bin Laden documents that they seized from the computer.
Right.
Anything that you have seen that what not surprises you, but that you think we should be looking at and learning from, or saying, wow, we didn't know that before?
Yeah, so I didn't see anything today that took me to a brand new place. The first work we did on these documents told us two things. One, that he was managing the day-to-day operations of Al-Qaeda, and not only was he managing it, he was micromanaging it, right? He was approving mid-level appointments, he was approving funding going here, going there, right? Not just the ideological leader, but the day-to-day manager. The other thing they told us, that he continued to want to attack the United States of America.
Spectacularly,
Yes.
as well as urging people to do it on a lower level, correct?
Yes.
But what bothers me is the media is presenting the, what a great father. He cared so much about it. Notwithstanding that he was such a bad man, look at this email and look at this text or whatever they are documents saying, I miss my kids, blah, blah, blah. I mean, is that?
It's not relevant to who he is and as a terrorist, right? Sure, he's a father, but he killed 3,000 people on 9/11. I think that says all we need to say.
Yeah, so when the media keeps harping on that, it's presenting maybe a false image of him?
An irrelevant image.
Yeah, irrelevant.
Right? Irrelevant.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. All right, the book, The Great War of Our Time. Are we prepared to win this great war of our time?
So, Steve, that's a great question. I talk about two things we have to do. One is something that we've done exceptionally well since 9/11, and that is to deal with terrorists who already exist, who are trying to kill us. Right? We've done an exceptional job of protecting the homeland. Hasn't been another attack since 9/11 from the outside. We've had a couple on the inside. We are very good at protecting the homeland, very good at taking off the battlefield, capturing and killing bad guys. What we haven't done a very good job of is stopping the radicalization process, right? The process that creates new terrorists. So as fast as we take them onto the battlefield, they're putting them back onto the battlefield. And that is a very hard thing for the United States of America to get its arms around, because we don't have a lot of credibility in the conversation that actually has to take place here about what this religion is all about, that it really is peace-loving, right? It's not about violence. And it's not a conversation we can have. It's a conversation that Muslim leaders have to have with their people, Muslim clerics with their congregations.
But they don't. And if it were a peaceful religion, purely peaceful religion, I mean, it's like, with all due respect, it's like Judaism. I'm Jewish. Yeah. There's Reform, there's Conservative, there's Orthodox. So isn't there a part of Islam that is radicalized, and these people who do these things look to their Quran and quote from their Quran and say, the Quran wants me to do this?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But what I was reacting to was not that. What I was reacting to is we are starting to see some Muslim countries, I talk about this in the book, Indonesia, right, which has done actually a very good job over the past 5 or 6 years trying to change the conversation with their people, trying to change the way they think, right? The other is President Sisi of Egypt just stood up and gave a speech about how we need to start thinking about our religion, and it was a really important first step. First step in a conversation with his people. So that kind of stuff has to happen a lot more. Absolutely.
So what you're describing here, though, is a long-term process for that to take root and to become meaningful.
So what I say in the book, which is probably the scariest thing at the end of the day, is that I believe, based on my experience, that my children's generation and my grandchildren's generation is still going to be fighting this fight.
Yeah, no, that is scary. Does the President of the United States understand what we're up against? He, in my view, and in the view of many, he doesn't use the language. He will not. If I had him sitting here and I talked about the Quran, whatever, he would deny it. He wouldn't say like you said, yes, he would say no. He doesn't say radical Islam. Does he understand it?
Yes, he does. He does.
Then why doesn't he talk about it?
So I understand, right? I understand why he doesn't want to put the word Islamic in front of the word extremism. I understand that, right? Because he doesn't want to paint the entire religion as being violent, right? But he understands that there is a strain of Islam that says violence is all right to do for political and religious purposes. He gets that.
Okay, but let's talk about the part where we kill the bad guys.
Yeah.
We're killing a lot of the bad guys. The drone strikes have increased since under George W. Bush. Do we lose a lot of intelligence because we're not doing what the president disbanded the CIA interrogation unit that a lot of people think was very successful. You may disagree, with getting information, and now we're killing this one and killing that one. Would it not be more valuable to capture them and get information from them?
So our strong preference is to capture rather than to kill, right? Strong preference is to capture for exactly the reason you said, which is to get intelligence, get what's in their head. But when you've got them in a part of the world where you cannot easily go get them, and you know that they are plotting against you to kill you, you know they have the capability to do that.
Right. Disband, get rid of them as far. But if we do capture them,
right?
Now we give them lawyers. We don't do what we did with Bush.
Well, we push back a little bit, right?
Please,
so,
please, yeah.
So this Abu Sayyaf, right? This raid against ISIS in Syria over the weekend. The goal was to capture him, right? Unfortunately, he died in a firefight. We got his wife.
And we didn't give her a lawyer notice.
We didn't give her a lawyer, right? So there's a process that she's going through, right, where she is being interrogated by an interagency team, right? And hopefully we'll get some intelligence out of her.
All right. When the State Department repeatedly says, and Josh Earnest says it also to an extent, we can't kill our way out of this. And you alluded to that too, and you agree with a portion of that. But then they say we got to get these people jobs. When we know that a lot of the leadership, a lot of the science, I mean, they're well educated, they've had jobs, even homegrowns here, the people in Texas, they were members of the community, they worked, they had family. Doesn't it seem foolish? Don't you think that the radical Islamists around the world are laughing at us when our administration says we got to find these people jobs?
Yeah, so I don't think this is largely an economic issue. I think this is largely a religious issue. I do think there's an economic component, right? If we could have a Marshall Plan for the Middle East, I think it would be fantastic, right? So giving jobs to kids, right, is important. But I think at the end of the day, there's got to be a conversation about this religion. There has to be a reformation of sorts inside this religion.
Are we doing enough to fight ISIS? I know that you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, from one of your previous interviews, that Al-Qaeda is a bigger threat than ISIS.
Yeah, it doesn't mean I don't think ISIS is a
No,
big
I
threat.
understand that. Yeah, but let's focus on ISIS for right now. When we see Ramadi go, and we see the celebrations at the convoys with the flags, as a layman, my first remark, why don't we just bomb the people who are out in the open celebrating? Why don't we just do that at least?
Yeah. Well, because there's a lot of women and children there. There's a lot of non-fighters there, right? And it just, that makes the problem
We could not have won World War II that way,
Look, I think that our strategy in Iraq, and I don't think we should throw it out the door simply because of Ramadi, right? I think our strategy in Iraq, which basically says the Iraqis have to win this themselves at the end of the day. We cannot be there forever, right? So we need an Iraqi security force that is capable of taking back this territory, right? And we're going to have to train them in order for them to do this. And clearly, they're not ready yet, right? Clearly, they're not ready yet. But the bigger picture here too, is that we have taken back about 25% of the territory that they originally gained, right?
Yeah.
So is this a setback? Absolutely, it's a setback. Is it the end of the world? I don't think we need to rethink our strategy quite yet.
All right, we're going to come back. We have another segment with Mike Morell, the book. Great book. I mean, it's a book of our time, and it's the war we're fighting right now. And as Mike Morell said, unfortunately, and I agree, our children and our grandchildren will still be fighting it. So this is as relevant a book as you could get from a man who has been there, not only from 9/11, but right up until getting Osama bin Laden and beyond. So the Great War of our time is a very apt name for the book. So we're coming back. Don't go away.
Were CIA officers tracking the movement of weapons from Libya to Syria?
Can't talk about that.
Can't talk about
Can't
it.
talk about it.
Even if they weren't moving the weapons themselves, are you saying categorically that the U.S. government and the CIA played no role whatsoever in the movement of weapons from Libya to Syria?
Yes, we played no role. Now, whether we were watching other people do it, I can't talk about it.
All right, Michael Morell joins us once again, the author of the great new book, The Great War of Our Time. Okay, I know I'm going to get the same. Why can't you talk about it? You're out. I mean, it's classified, and it's still classified. Is that the
Yes.
reason?
Yes. Protecting sources and methods, right?
Okay.
If we tell the bad guys what we know, they can figure out how we figured it out, right? And then we can't collect that information anymore.
Okay, so without being that specific, was the attack on the Benghazi embassy about, and was it all related to transferring weapons?
I don't think it had anything to do with transferring weapons.
Did it have anything to do with the video?
We don't know, right?
We still don't know?
We don't know. We don't know. You know, what the analysts said at the time was that they thought that what happened in Benghazi was a copycat attack of what happened in Cairo, right? My chief of station in Tripoli speculated that one of the reasons might have been the video. In February 2014, the FBI told the House Intelligence Committee that an individual in Benghazi ordered the attacks in part because of the video. We are not going to know for sure, Steve, until we capture enough of these guys who were actually there that night, who actually committed murder that night, and have them talk to us and tell us why they did it.
Before we move on to, I want you to hear Hillary in 59. Watch this one.
It's been in news reports that ships have been leaving from Libya and that they may have weapons. And what I'd like to know is the annex that was close by, were they involved with procuring, buying, selling, obtaining weapons? And were any of these weapons being transferred to other countries, any countries, Turkey included?
Well, Senator, you'll have to direct that question to the agency that ran the annex. And I will see what information is available. And
You're saying you don't know?
I do not.
All right, she said, I do not know. Right. So you can't talk about it.
No. She was asked a different question. The question she was asked was, did the CIA annex, was the CIA annex involved in shipping weapons from Libya to Syria? I can categorically tell you we were not.
Okay. There have been DIA documents that have been released.
One.
Yeah, and there are people who claim that it conflicts with what you told Politico about the Benghazi attack.
Right.
In fact, there's, if you read the memo from 2012, well, I don't know if 2012. I think it was June of 2012. I'm looking for the date that I jotted down. I mean, there has been so much written and said, and this document seems to also show that this was not a spontaneous, that there was knowledge that this attack was coming. So if there was knowledge that this attack was coming, and how does that square with what you just told me about that this could still be a reaction as a copycat to a protest that happened just hours before?
Okay, so what I argue in the book, right, which is not only my view, it's the view of the intelligence community analysts, all of them, that there was little to no pre-planning, right? And you say, well, what about this DIA document, right? This is not all source analysis. This is not the view of DIA analysts. This is a report from one source, right? And what analysts do is they take all these reports and they look at them and they put them together and they make a judgment, right? And that judgment, which I share, is little to no pre-planning, right? That's the judgment. This DIA report does not change that in any way.
Doesn't change your opinion.
Nor does it change the opinion of the analysts.
But it was written by someone whose opinion it is.
It was written. It was information collected from a source, not something written by a DIA analyst.
What about another 2012 DIA memo? Maybe it's the same one. You said there was one that predicts the rise of ISIS and a caliphate 17 months before Barack Obama called them JV. Is that accurate?
So I don't know. I haven't seen that one. What I can tell you about the rise of ISIS is that the intelligence community reported on the rise of AQI after the United States left Iraq at the end of 2011, and when they went across the border and changed their name to ISIS, that we reported on their growing strength because they were getting recruits, they were getting money, and they were getting hands-on weapons. So we reported that to the administration and to Congress.
Did the administration do enough?
You know, that's not a question for me. My job is to look overseas and report it to them.
Okay. Was it a mistake to dethrone Gaddafi?
So I actually say in the book, you know, are Libyans better off today than they were under Gaddafi? I don't think so. I think that one of the real lessons learned from the last 15 years is, boy, we better be careful when we try to impose democracy on a society that's not ready for it.
All right. Barack Obama speaking today to a bunch of cadets in the Coast Guard. And with all that's going on in the world, with all that you write about in the book, he's talking about climate change as a national security threat. You agree with that?
So we actually have a group of people at CIA who look at the national security implications of climate change. And there are, right, changing water patterns, for example, between countries, increasing tensions between countries. You've got the polar ice cap melting, right? And you've got people looking at how are we going to get our hands on those resources and competing with each other.
But hasn't this always been the case?
Absolutely.
Time magazine, right, absolutely, right? You said absolutely?
No, absolutely. This problem is getting worse, right? Climate change is getting worse, and the national security implications are getting worse. Now, is it the most important thing we're facing right now? I don't think so. But is it a long-term threat to the country? Absolutely.
You know, in the 70s, Time magazine and another magazine said the ice age is coming. Now it's then it was global warming, and now they can't sell that, so it's climate change.
Yeah, I'm going with the vast majority of scientists here, Steve. I'm going with that.
Well, at least you're not saying 99% because that is inaccurate. Hey, it's been a pleasure.
That's great.
Thank
Great
you very
seeing
much.
you.
Mike Morell, ladies and gentlemen, the book, The Great War of Our Time. And we'll be back with much more of the Steve Malzberg Show. Kurt Schlichter will join us from Breitbart. Don't go away.